Hello everyone and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm Yvonne Heath, your host and the founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So joining me today, yes, he also has his I Just Showed Up bracelet, is Jamie Hall. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, Yvonne.
I am so thrilled to have you here today. Welcome.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Yes, well, we first met when last season you brought Allison Bobette to the studio, and I fell in love with Allison. She was so incredible.
Remarkable young woman.
She is. And what I loved so much about you and your relationship with Allison is how much you cared about her and how you just wanted to make so sure she was comfortable on the show and I had the right information. And I don't know, Jamie, I think he emailed me probably, 50 times, like, well, make sure, she's comfortable and this and that. And I really loved that. So
well, and I overkill on everything, but in hindsight, there's so much Allison has accomplished in her life in such a short time as a young woman in her early 30s. But in my accompanying her to the sets to be on the show last season. She didn't need any help at all. That's the type of person she is. Very, very able, very capable, and was a great guest.
She was a shining star.
Yeah.
And so tell me how you support Allison and what your role is and what you do for the community.
Well, Allison is someone we support through Simcoe Community Services, and but it's a collaborative relationship we have because we learn so much from her. She teaches us and all of the people and the families we support through Simcoe Community Services teach us something every day. But Allison is supported through our Supported Independent Living program, which means she lives in the community. She's got her own place. We simply go in and help, with the odd task that Allison might need some help on. So
right. And so with Allison, the correct terminology, would you say, is developmentally disabled? Is that, you don't want to label, but
developmentally disabled. We like to say intellectually disabled, or intellectually challenged.
Yes.
To some degree, but aren't we all?
Absolutely.
Gosh, I procrastinate. My wife will be the first to tell you, doesn't do the vacuuming, and, take the garbage out, and so I think we all are to some degrray.
Oh well, if you don't already know, most people would agree that I could be the poster woman for ADHD. When I said that to someone, and yeah, no kidding, Yvonne. And so I do. I have my challenges of being able to stay focused and trying to do a million things at once, etc. But
we all need help.
Yeah. But Allison, she's written a book, or 2 books, and she's an advocate. But she also, and I'm putting a plug in for this. I don't even care. This song on iTunes, I Am Able. And I have some of the lyrics here. I am able, I am not a label. Words cannot define who I am. I am more than special needs. Open your eyes and learn from me because I am able.
Is that wonderful?
Oh, every time I see that or say it, it just chokes me up because learn from me, actually. And yes, we can all learn from Allison and everyone.
This is a song she wrote on her own, and the production and the music end of things was with a group called Music Without Barriers.
Yes.
But yes, you're right. It's on iTunes. It's on iTunes. Download it, upload it, whatever the terminology is, and Allison gets a cut of that. But those words Allison wrote, it's her story, but it also speaks to all of the people and the families that we support and that we go about caring. Everybody should be caring about every day in our community.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about people now you don't say they're clients, you support, or
we like to clients we want to get away from institutionalized branding, which is that's sort of a term that harkens back to another era, and we're all about inclusion now in the community, whether it's Barrie, whether it's Orillia, Simcoe County, but we like to say people supported. So that's our terminology.
Yeah. So who else what other community members does Community Services support?
Well, Simcoe Community Services, just to give you some context, 1953 in the area, under a different name, but because Simcoe Community Services and the name has evolved, but in the Barrie area, it started by a very concerned group of families with children who were looking for another alternative to institutionalization, which is all we had back in the early 50s. And even throughout, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, the Huronia Regional Center just a big part of the Orillia area and the Orillia economy and the history of this area, but shuttered its doors in 2009. It wasn't that long ago.
That is not that long ago. I worked at Lakewood Nursing Home in '84 in Huntsville, which was an institution for those with who were developmentally disabled or physically disabled, and so that wasn't,
The model was to support people with who were developmentally challenged or had intellectual needs, special needs, but shutter them away.
Over here.
And away and out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
Was sort of the mentality then. And now it's about being part of the community, being inclusive, whether it's working, volunteering, playing sports, going to school, in our community with everyone.
Because we all have value and we all matter.
Absolutely.
Period. Inclusion is the answer.
So Simcoe Community Services, we support, and it varies from month to month, year to year, but some upwards of 1,500 people.
1,500?
And their families that we support in a number of diverse programs, from our group living accommodations program, 40-plus group homes in the area, Allison, with supported independent living. There's our community support services, which are day programs for adults. There's our preschool program, which is, we like to think of it as it's services for children and families, but it's universal in that you don't necessarily have to have an intellectual disability to go to the early on centers, 3 of them in Barrie, in Innisfil, Bradford area. There's our Grandparents Parenting Again program. There's our Family Support program. So we have 550 employees with Simcoe Community Services. So we're one of the largest employers in Simcoe County.
That's incredible. So I want to go back to Grandparents Parenting Again. Tell me about that.
And another program that is not necessarily under intellectual needs, but Simcoe County, the statistic is Grandparents Parenting Again. So these are grandparents that have become the caregivers, the parents to their grandchildren because of various social or economic stories, and there's great challenges with the program because they're also dealing with legalities, going to court for custody of the children. But grandparents who have come to a point in their life where they're in their golden years, they don't have the energy they once had, they don't have the disposable income that they once have, and now they become the parents to their grandchildren. And Simcoe County is home to 20%, I believe the statistic we had last, 20% of Grandparents Parenting Again in the province. So there's a high rate of
20%.
About 20% of the Grandparents Parenting Again are in Simcoe County.
Now, why is that? Why is there such a high need here?
It's hard to get into the exact why. It could be because population based in this area is more of a retirement area. That could be one of the factors. But we just know that Simcoe County has a large. There's great needs for this particular program, and it's a new program for Simcoe Community Services. But it's supporting the grandparents, supporting the children of these families, and some of it has to do with it's around support groups. But oftentimes it's also respite. It's giving grandma or grandpa the opportunity to just a day to re-energize, or even just go get groceries.
That's incredible. And of course that would be very challenging for the children as well. I mean, suddenly their parents, or maybe not suddenly, but their parents aren't parenting them, the grandparents are, and that's a whole different, maybe they've moved, maybe changed schools, and confusion, I would think.
A lot of the children that come into that program have their own issues that they're dealing with, and that's why we're here.
Yes, and I think that connecting different grandparents that are in this situation, peers supporting peers is always, I think, incredible. Because I can't tell you what it's like to be in that situation, but another grandparents talking to you about it, that could relate. I think that's important to have that support as well.
Sharing resources, sharing partnerships, big part of it. So that is one of the programs under our Simcoe Community Services umbrella.
It's interesting because I don't think a lot of people recognize that as a need, and it's in every community, I have no doubt.
Oh, absolutely. Barrie and Orillia, very supportive communities, but there are great needs, and another program that has seen huge growth, in fact it's our fastest growing program, is our Regional Housing Support Services. But again, it's universal in that it's not necessarily framed around special needs or intellectual disabilities, but it's finding affordable housing for low-income individuals and families, and Simcoe Community Services is the lead agency.
Well, that's incredible, because it seems low income or whatever, housing is the price, it's atrocious.
And you flip, they talk about the real estate market cooling in 2019, and I mean, you wouldn't know it here with how much rent is in Simcoe County, and I think that has a great deal to do with the proximity we have to Toronto.
But it seems, even Huntsville, the rents are very high, and we need to find, I don't know, something needs to happen, but I'm very grateful for these organizations, but it's like we need a cultural change, or something needs to happen.
And it's working with the landlords too, it's not just the tenants, but it's also working with the landlords, because there is obviously a relationship there.
So do these these community supports exist in all communities? Not that you have the answer exactly, but is this in most communities?
Absolutely, but Simcoe Community Services is very unique in that we are a multi-service agency, as I've kind of described some of our programs, but we're one of the largest multi-service agencies of our kind in the country.
Well, probably the best, obviously.
Well,
you don't want to say
now
that.
You're blowing smoke, Yvonne. Love it.
I don't want to say, I don't want to brag. But
we like to think so.
Yes. Yeah, incredible. So tell me a few more of your, Alison Bobette, I would certainly say, is an incredible success story of her own doing with support, but do you have another, someone comes to mind?
For sure. Alison sits on and also a volunteer with Simcoe Community Services. She's on our Self-Advocates Council, and so she is an advocate as well. But I think of another young gentleman, Brant, who is also on our Self-Advocates Council. Brant sits on the same Self-Advocates Committee, but he sits on it at a provincial level for Community Living Ontario.
Okay.
Brant works in the community, but Brant just recently got married.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And Brant is a very outspoken advocate for people with special needs, and outspoken in a great way. But Brant is another great advocate for Simcoe Community Services and for people with special needs. But I think of another gentleman. Some of the challenges we have in the community, and I think of Don, and he is in Barrie, and Don is a gentleman with cerebral palsy, and very, very social, very active in his community. But one of the things that when this gentleman would be walking the streets of Barrie, people driving by or passing him on the street would confuse his cerebral palsy with being inebriated.
Sure.
And they'd pick up the phone and call the police and saying, here's a drunk guy on the street. And that wasn't the case at all.
Dear.
And so that was frustrating for him. Where we stepped in was with in trying to get the education to the community, but also get the education to the law enforcement, the Barrie Police Services, that just because don't judge a book by its cover is basically the message.
Find out, yes. And we started chatting about the fact that I am so grateful that these supports are in communities, and we need that. But we also, I know a lot of people think, okay, well, they have support, and how wonderful. It's kind of like when people are grieving, well, they have their grief counselor. But we need our community, we need our village, right? We need employers and coworkers and neighbors to educate themselves, to extend some kindness, to know and understand what inclusion really means. Because if we're truly going to be an inclusive society, it's everyone in our village, right?
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's really boils down to just it's being a good neighbor and caring about the people around you, whether it's taking in the garbage pail for the senior citizen that lives next door, shoveling the driveway because the person next door is in need or can't get out that particular day. And the same holds true for someone with special needs. Is that I like to think that we as a society are looking out for everyone.
Absolutely.
And if we're not doing that, then we're not being good neighbors.
And that's all. It really doesn't take much to be a good neighbor. And I think we often, again, in our busy, I'm so busy, I'm the busiest person in the world, I don't have time for that.
Life has gotten busier, hasn't it?
It has gotten busier.
For sure.
But the thing is that I think people often miss is if you extend a little kindness, you fill your own bucket. And I always say, I go out of my way to be nice or to do random acts of kindness. I don't even think it's because I'm a good person. I think it just makes me feel so darn good.
Well, that's just it. And I think getting to know, you talk about Allison, you talk about Brant, and getting to know, the people that we support, and not judging someone by appearances. You get to know them. I guarantee you're going to get more out of that interaction and that relationship than you put into it. You're going to get more in getting to know someone Simcoe Community Services supports. It's a great relationship.
It's so true, and I think of those grandparents who are parenting again, and maybe they thought their golden years were going to be their time to relax and kick back, and I'm sure, of course, they love their grandchildren, but it's a huge responsibility in going back to that, because I even think my children, our youngest, are 13-and-a-half-year-old twins. Changing a diaper right now, I am sorry. Wow. I don't ever want to have to do that again.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are doing this, and to support them though as neighbors, as friends.
You do what you got to do. There's no question. But you talk about grandparents. I always hear this from my in-laws who are grandparents to my two daughters. Is that the great thing is with grandchildren you can love them for a couple hours and then they go back to mom and dad. In this particular program, you can't do that. You can't.
Yes.
It's 24/7.
It's 24/7, and I know wonderful grandparents who ended up raising their granddaughter because it wasn't any situation that they can control, but the mom had died. Mm-hmm. And the father lived in the city, and it was very difficult, but they made that choice. And to have friends and even teachers and other parents in the school to know that is the situation, and maybe to just reach out a little bit more. It's all it takes, isn't it? Or doesn't it?
Well, you're right, and I think if we all did that, then it wouldn't take. There's so many people doing great big things, but if we all did it, and not to take away from that one person that is doing Herculean care in the community, and they'll probably still keep doing that, but if we all did that, boy, we'd be what an inclusive society we'd be.
It really would be. And the thing is that the burden isn't on just one person, and that's again what that to me, that is the most valuable message. It's not just about how wonderful that you have this support in the community, or they have this, but what can I do today? I think that's the question, right? What could I do today? And it just really doesn't take much at all, does it?
If you go to our website, which is simcoecommunityservices.ca, and you click on the volunteer link, my contact info will be there, and I can certainly tell you how you can help our organization, but what you can do today.
So now if somebody wanted to volunteer, could they say, I'm available 1 hour a month?
That's all it takes. That's you give what you can, and if it's an hour a month, then that is precious, and we welcome that. But we'd have a discussion around what are your what's your availability, but how do you see yourself helping out in the community, and we can find that niche and that fit for you that is perfect for you as a volunteer.
Yes. Well, and I had interviewed Colin Wackett, who is someone in his 80s I think he was the Citizen of the Year at one time, and he still does volunteer work. And he, when people give you that nugget that you're like, I love that. Right. So we don't all have to lift the 10-pound bags of potatoes, right?
Right.
again, some people think, oh, well, I'm not qualified to do that. I'm not qualified, so I can't, or I don't have the time. So imagine if everyone gave an hour a month and said, I can't lift anything, but what would you like me to do? And how about being the greeter, right? There's this one gentleman in our community in Huntsville, Glenn, and he actually was a resident of Lakewood Nursing Home when I worked there when I was 19. And I'm past 19 now.
I was going to say that was what, 2 years ago, wasn't it? Of course,
yes. It was several decades ago. But now Glenn lives in our community and is a part of the community, which I love so much. And I've seen him at events for Muskoka seniors. And he is in a wheelchair, and he needs to be fed, and he can't get up. Do you know what he does? He lights up the room everywhere he is because he has this big, broad smile, and he waves and greets everybody.
Well, these wonderful examples, and Colin sounds like a young 80 to me, but
yes,
you volunteer, you do that 1 hour a month. I mean, it increases your quality of life. It makes you live longer.
It does.
There's and studies have proven it too.
Studies have, and getting back to sort of intergenerational inclusion also, right? Because our elders used to live among us. Everybody lived among us, and now we've sort of segregated everyone. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we all came together as a community? Inclusion.
Everywhere.
Yes, it's for everyone, everywhere, and we really, when we stop and think, okay, we need big solutions. We don't need big solutions. We just need everyone to sort of lean into it.
Absolutely.
Right? Even if they call to inquire, what could I do here? And wonder, can I make a difference? And the answer is yes.
We have one volunteer, and I believe it's once every 2 weeks. I'm just trying to think of Mavis. She goes out and she has a relationship with a young woman we support, and she meets her for an hour once every 2 weeks for coffee. They get together for coffee.
And that is,
and out of that's grown. Well, maybe we'll go shopping, but they recognize each other's birthdays, and cards are sent, and cakes are baked, and
they're friends.
They are friends. But it's 1 hour of coffee, 2 hours of coffee once a month, and they're great friends, and that's how she is giving back, and that's how she's volunteering. Is because she's formed this relationship with this young woman who looks forward to this getting together with Mavis, and that's a great example of.
I love it.
I don't want to say it's easy volunteering, but that's the time.
Having
Mavis,
a cup of coffee. It doesn't take a lot of time.
It should be hard,
and it doesn't take a lot of money. And here is the thing, and I just want people to get it. You do get so much more in return, right? Sitting here with Allison Bobette in that chair, I walked away. I don't know, I just felt so honored.
Well, that's the effect she
her.
has. She's a shining star.
She is a shining star. But, I've heard so many stories of a senior, somebody saying, somebody visited them and she's like, wow, that's the first person I've seen in 3 weeks, and it's it's everyone, it's inclusion. And the big thing, I think, when I talk about just kind of be more aware of your neighborhood. Be more aware of in your community. Who could be slipping through the cracks, or who could be lonely today?
Well, and I'm talking about, here I am promoting Simcoe Community Services, which is the agency I work for. But yeah, it could be the Seniors Wish Foundation. It could be Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I mean, yeah, pick something close to your heart and give back and.
It's always better
make a world of difference.
It does, because it's always better to do something than to do nothing. And I get it. We're all in our lane and everyone's going full blast. But it also makes you pause and really appreciate, right, your own life. And when you go to visit grandparents who are raising their grandkids and you're there, take the kids to the park. Like if you have a relationship, all of you go to the park and, again, have that cup of coffee. It doesn't have to take time. It doesn't have to take a lot of time or money. So it's just something to think about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Your show does that. Makes you think. Well, it inspires, too. You're an advocate.
I am an advocate.
You are.
Well, and again, I think it's because we feel like the change makers are over here, or we need laws to change, and that's all true. But change starts with you, and it doesn't. You don't have to be a TV host. I mean, if you want to, talk to Deanne. But
talk to Rogers Television.
Rogers
Thank
TV.
you, Rogers.
Thank you, Rogers. But just being a voice. If you see something, say something, or just give a little. Even start with saying, I don't know, I'll come to a meeting, or I'll give 30 minutes. You don't have to. You don't have to make a big commitment. But I promise you, you will get so much more in return. Right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I love everything that you do. And why are you so passionate about this?
Stakeholder relations manager, marketing, communications is sort of.
I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah, Simcoe Community Services.
Title, yes.
So, and I've been with the organization now over 3 years. But hopefully, in my small role in helping to get the message out on what Simcoe Community Services is and who we are in the community, it's making a small difference. It's another footstep forward in inclusion, and that's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. Yeah. And I know that you are making a difference, because I see when you were here before and how much you care, and I thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you so much.
Yes. So tell me again the website.
It's Simcoe Community Services.
Yes.
Sort of a long handle, but SimcoeCommunityServices.ca.
All right. And is there a phone number people could call when they want to volunteer?
You'll get it on the website.
Okay. It's all there.
It's all there.
It's all there.
705-726-9082.
There's that radio voice that sounds so great.
Another chapter in my life, yeah.
Your other life. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity to shine some light, and I hope that everybody just kind of says, I didn't know that was going on in my community. Maybe just be a little bit more aware of your neighbors and your community, and it's always better to do something than to do nothing.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for having me. A pleasure.
Thank you so much. So thanks for joining us today. Real Life Talks is about learning how to just show up for yourself and others, and sometimes having hard conversations, or just talking about things we don't normally talk about. So if you want to be able to just show up, you want to be empowered and resilient, my call to action always is plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thank you.